following takes place between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Event secure in real time.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We're back for another week of FPC Radio Live. It's Monday. It's February the 21st. Last week of February, as crazy as that sounds. No football yesterday, which is fine. It was kind of nice. Got to do some things that normally I wouldn't do on a Sunday, like sit around and just stare at the wall. I usually don't do that on Sundays. Usually I'm sitting around staring at a TV. But nonetheless, it was fairly enjoyable. But I'm sure it's going to get pretty tired pretty soon when a couple weeks from now, you're sitting there like, well, what the hell am I going to do on Sunday? I've been to too many farmers markets, too many little things, too many errands I've done. I'm just tired of it already. But for now, I'm enjoying it. So how was your Sunday without football, John?
Well, it was interesting. The thing is, the difference between me and you is you have the option because it's usually 70 degrees or warmer in Tampa.
It was beautiful yesterday.
Yeah, so on a Sunday, you can get up and go for a walk or go out and do whatever you want.
Sean, that requires way too much effort to get up and go take a walk.
Well, you could do it on a golf course, right?
Oh. No, actually, here's the problem, John. It's February down in Florida, which, as I found out, as I'm learning every single day, it is absolutely impossible to get a decent tee time because everyone's playing right now. Especially, we're just kind of getting out of our quote unquote winter, which means, kind of overcast and like 50s on a regular basis. So it's a tad bit chilly. Maybe not the best weather for going out and golfing, but it has started to warm up lately. I think we're mid 70s all week this week. So it's going to be a pretty busy few weeks at the golf course until all the snowbirds go back up north. So that's what I'm hoping for. When that happens, Sean, that's when I thrive. That's when I can go and golf pretty much every day and not worry about having to not get a tee time.
That's where you can hook up with Stan the caddy.
That's right.
Tell you what shot to take. Stan the caddy.
That's right. That's right.
Kramer's advisor.
That's back in the first and early days of like Xbox Live and stuff like that. I know you're a tad bit older, so just imagine if Atari was played online, John. Just picture that.
I go back to Pong.
Pong, yes, okay. Well, my username or avatar, I don't know what do they call them now? We call them usernames. We used to call them screen names back in the day. I don't know if that's even a thing anymore, but my username used to actually be Stan the Caddy. That was my thing. So I used to run around not only on Xbox Live, but things like Counter-Strike on the computer. So for all of you to 40, remember that. Anyways, there'll be plenty of time for playing video games on Sundays, though, if that happens to be the case. Sometimes I do like those rainy days on Sunday. You never know. Sometimes you just need a day where you can actually not feel bad about being lazy. That's the one. That's the one thing about this, John, living down here in Florida, is that like it's very hard to justify sitting in the house and doing stuff like that when it's 75 and sunny. You know what I mean? And the problem too is like there'll be days where it's like, oh, I don't really have much. I would love to sit down and watch a movie because it's pouring rain out. Well, by the time I set up the movie and get comfortable, it could be sunny and feel like summer again. And you're kind of like, all right, I feel like I'm not doing anything. It's like George. It's like, if I'm staying in the house, I don't feel like I'm doing anything. But if I go over somewhere, I feel like I'm doing something. I'm out. So yeah, it's great living down here. I like it. It's warm. I got to work on my tan a little bit. I'm starting to get that. My Scottish and Irish roots are starting to show because I've been kind of shut in because it's been so frigid down here relative to Florida, of course, John. And
meanwhile, here we look out the window and see if it's snowing out and say, well, we'll just kind of hang in today. It's not worth going out in the middle of all this. But we're winding down to the end of February, which is my least favorite month. So once we get into March, we'll start breaking out some of the better weather, and maybe baseball will show up this year. I don't know. Who knows? They're supposed to meet this week, hopefully more than 15 minutes, which is the last time they met on Thursday to try to hammer out a new agreement. But I'm not really optimistic about that. But this is kind of a dead time of the year for sports, right? Because football just ended. We're not quite into free agency yet. Then we've got the combine and the draft, and then, well, at any moment something could drop with the quarterbacks. Brady may say, "Hey, you know what? That was just a joke a couple weeks ago. I'm back," and Aaron Rodgers may demand a trade, and Russell Wilson could demand a trade. So there's all sorts of things that can happen. The NFL still dominates, and meanwhile, the other sports are kind of like in the hazy days, I like to call it. There's like 6-7 weeks left in the NBA season. Same thing in the NHL. So just get through February, we'll be just fine.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I'm glad you kind of mentioned it because, we talked. I think we at one point on Friday talked about a little bit about the Brady stuff, and I said, look, I'm going back and forth. I'm 50-50. I have no idea. Will he? Won't he? I don't know. But so. Look, there's two things that former Patriot Rich Orenberger had to deal with this weekend. First off, he got duped, and admittedly so. So I'm not making claims that he has not admitted himself, but he got a little bit duped with that text about the Patrick Mahomes story about having that conference with his wife and brother, or his girlfriend and brother. And look, I mean, it was believable because, well, if I was Patrick, I'd probably do that.
Yeah,
I'd be like, you know what, let's like cool it. And look, on a side note, like, the amount of criticism and the levels to which people are going and criticizing, Brittany and his brother are getting to the point of kind of being over the top. However, the revisionist history and pretending that, oh, poor Brittany and Jackson, like, what? Look, I remember both of them. One poured water on fans. The other poured a bunch of champagne. I remember Brittany fabricating a story about Patriots fans treating her poorly, which obviously got the national attention on Patriots fans. And the reality of it was she was being who we know her as, and she's fairly obnoxious. I mean, it is what it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, some people are just very obnoxious. She's one of them. And it rubs people the wrong way when you're in the public eye. Doesn't justify some of the things that she has to go through on a day-to-day basis, but like I said, I see people sit here pretend like, no one gets so much more criticism. Like, I mean, are you kidding me? Like, for the last 7 years, ammunition for anti-Brady folks is pictures of him kissing his kids. You know what I mean? Like, let's pump like, part of the reason why Patrick Mahomes, and it's the same thing with his play being criticized, and like people like, now we're getting to the stage where like people are like, wow, how could you put so much pressure? Why would you say all these things about Patrick? Oh, he's broken, he's this, he's that. Well, part of that is because people that are now defending and saying like, why are you being so harsh on him, were the same people that were over the top elevating him. So it goes both ways here. So let's not pretend they're completely blameless in all of this. Like, they brought a lot of this on themselves. Let's be real with it. But doesn't mean that they deserve to be going through some of the stuff they are. Anyways, the point being, he got that story wrong and he admitted it. However, there was another story that he sort of threw out there in the Twitter sphere over the weekend, and that is a supposed rift between Tom Brady and Bruce Arians. And not only did he not also say he got duped on that one, he kind of doubled down and responded to the Tampa Bay Times report that basically negated what he said. But anyways, the story basically said that there was an issue between Brady and Leftwich and Arians, maybe over editing, so to speak, of their game plan and some of these other underlying issues that, does it sound believable? Sure. And part of the reason why, and I looked into this, like, last season, and you'll back this up, Tom Brady's always been, if not the best, one of the very best play action quarterbacks in the entire league for much of his career. It's hard to remember a time that he did not have that, part of the game, almost mastered. And we all know that, he threw the most of anyone last year, was highly efficient. Inexplicably, John, the Buccaneers only ran play action on 17.9% of all their pass plays, which is good for, guess this, 27th in the league. That, for all the, and I get it. I mean, I'm obviously stories like this, you have to go at it with a lot of skepticism because you can't believe everything you hear. And look, I'm probably leaning and hoping that it's true because this kind of adds fuel to the fire that maybe he's not quite done yet. But the I'd say the that kind of lends a little credence to some potential disagreements when it comes to game planning. And we can go back to some of the episodes throughout the season that we talked about where it's like, for some reason, the Bucks offense never ever completely felt like it was on all the time. We talked about it all year. Like they'd be great for 2 quarters. Usually to start, sometimes to finish. Either way, generally it was like 2 quarters, then they'd struggle, and then you have Tom, so you're going to ultimately kind of win out on some of those like minor struggles. But the point was it never felt like it was certainly flowing. And then again, it's not surprising when a 44-year-old football player announces his retirement. No. But I think generally people were shocked that Tom Brady decided to retire. So what's the reason? And, ever since he did announce his retirement, I know he's somewhat kind of sort of confirmed it, and he continues to say he's happy with his decision. But there's so many doors and windows open, and he hasn't really necessarily shut them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like he'll shut one window and then crack open another one with like another comment, and you're just sitting here scratching your head like, okay, what is this guy thinking? And then you got people anticipating maybe he wants to go to San Francisco, and now I'm thinking like, yeah, I want to see him in San Francisco, John, because I think
he'd look good in that uniform.
Oh man, he would.
That uniform, number 12 in that uniform. Holy cow! Yeah, he's never used the word retirement. He always kind of like goes around it a little bit. And I don't feel like he wants to retire. Why the hell would he? He's still awesome.
Look, he has a lot of he has a lot of reasons to. I mean, he certainly does. I mean, age, family, all that stuff. But to your point, I mean, it's certainly not his play.
Well, Peyton Manning retired because he was done, and he won a Super Bowl, so that was a perfect way to go out. Elway, I think, was just done, although he had a great Super Bowl in his final game, and the Broncos won. Joe Montana talked about that. He thought he had 1 or 2 more years left, but just figured it was enough already. And I think he's kind of sent that message to Brady, like, don't retire if you still think you have something in the tank. Now, obviously, one hit could cause some damage. You worry about concussions or anything else, and why not go out while you're healthy and still playing at an awesome level. I still think he has plenty of good football in him. But, yeah, I can buy into that. He just grew tired of Bruce Arians. Now, remember, Brady was in a very structured organization with the Patriots for 20 years, right? Like, to me, that felt like, the movie Full Metal Jacket. Like it was you had a drill instructor that was on top of you. Well, he goes to Tampa for 2 years, and it's more like Stripes with Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Well, maybe after 2 years
like
ago, 2 years, no, both great movies. But at some point, maybe Brady said, you know what? 2 years of this, I kind of missed that structure because he's a structured guy, right? Brady could tell you what he's having for lunch on April 10th. At this point, I would guarantee that he's not Brett Favre, who kind of just winged it, right? I mean, if that's even a word. I mean, Brett Favre was a guy who, early in his career didn't know what a nickelback was. So that's a different type of quarterback. So I think that I think he really wants to go to San Francisco because that would be a great way to wrap his career. But I don't know how that would work with Kyle Shanahan, who has a massive ego. And from what we hear, when Brady was a free agent 2 years ago, and the place he wanted to go was San Francisco, I guess he and Shanahan had some conversation, and he kind of threw back at Shanahan some of his play calling in the Super Bowl loss by the Falcons to the Patriots when Shanahan was the offensive coordinator. And Shanahan's one of these guys who thinks he's the star. Like you could plug in any quarterback, kind of a robo quarterback, and he'll get the job done. Well, that's not the way it works. His father was never a successful coach till he got to John Elway.
Well,
he
maybe
didn't win a lot without John Elway.
Maybe Kyle will learn some lessons from his father then, because look, I mean, he's had 2 opportunities, and I'm including this year, to win Super Bowls because the opportunity was there for him. I mean,
three, and don't forget, offensive coordinator with the Falcons.
Well, I'm specifically as the head coach. Yeah, right. With these 49ers, he's had 2 opportunities, and like I said, I mean, they lost to a team that they've won 6 games against in a row, the Rams.
Yep.
Like they could have won that game. That game was there, but they were the quarterback. And go back to the Super Bowl. Like, I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's a fine NFL quarterback. We've seen too many instances where his limitations have hurt this team and held them back. And so maybe Kyle Shanahan's sitting here thinking, like, I have a team. And if Tom Brady wants to come, you know what? Guess what? I will listen to Tom Brady because, well, first of all, he's older than you. Second, I think he knows a thing or two about winning Super Bowls and how to do it.
Yep.
And you have a team that, like, look, the reason why this story caught fire, obviously because Tom Brady's involved, but it's believable. Whether or not it's true, we don't know. We're just speculating. And again, I'm thinking of it in terms of being a Brady fan and saying, hey, if this is what it takes to get him one more year, I'm fine with that. Like, I'm at the point, like, I'm completely over him not being with the Patriots. That does not bother me at all. Like, I mean, there's obviously I always wanted him to finish his career, but I'm over that. Like, I'm at the stage of my football fandom where I just want to see him be a mercenary. Just go team to team as long as he possibly can and win Super Bowls. And look, the reality of it is, if he goes to the 49ers, I think they're the best team in the NFC. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
They have the defense.
Absolutely.
They have they have the offensive pieces in place, and then you add a guy that's not just coming with his name. He's coming as, you know, like I said, I think he finished the year as the best quarterback in the league. And if he decides to come back, until I see otherwise, I will continue to believe he's the best quarterback in the league. So it's juicy, and I hope. Look, I hope this is true. I hope that Arians and Brady hated each other, and that, like, this whole thing was just pushed out by because Brady didn't want to be here, and this is all a big plan, big way to get him to San Francisco. Because look, the Buccaneers are going to have to make a decision, and this would be kind of like one of those kind of a poison pill type of situation where it's like Brady's like, okay, well, the Bucs have to make a decision at quarterback position. Okay. There's a lot of veterans out there. The second they make that decision and he says, hey, I want to come back, they have no choice but to either cut him or trade him. So if he does want to come back to San Francisco, or if he does want to come back and go to, we're all assuming it's San Francisco for a number of reasons. Obviously, that's where he grew up, that he was a fan of as a kid. And look, they're a great team. They have a team in place that is a quarterback away. And for those out there that are sitting there, but Trey Lance, I don't care. If I'm a 49ers fan, if you're giving me the option of 10 years of Trey Lance or Tom Brady for next season, I'm taking Tom Brady, because I don't know what the hell Trey Lance is going to be. Maybe it's 10 years of mediocre quarterback play like you've been getting.
You can have both. I mean, you can have Brady for 1, maybe even 2 years, and then Trey Lance will only be 3 years into his career, because he's not going to learn from Brady, because Brady's not the guy that's going to teach young quarterbacks. He doesn't have the patience for that. But just watching Brady, I think, will make Trey Lance that much better a quarterback, and even did with Garoppolo while he was here. Remember last offseason, the quarterback that Kyle Shanahan wanted was Aaron Rodgers. He approached Green Bay about that, and I think it kind of fractured his friendship with Matt LaFleur, who's like, he's going to try to steal my quarterback. Well, Shanahan obviously realizes that they are a quarterback away. Here's the interesting thing about Shanahan. In the Super Bowl, when he was the offensive coordinator with Atlanta, and twice as head coach with the 49ers in one of the Super Bowls in the NFC Championship game, his team was outscored 59-0 in those 3 games in the fourth quarter. Now, lay that on your defense, but also lay that on your offense. You couldn't score a darn point in 45 minutes of football. I mean, that falls on him. I mean, let's not forget, 28-3, end up losing that game. They were up 20-10 in the fourth quarter against Kansas City, and then they were up in the NFC Championship game 17-7, and ended up losing 20-17. Like, his coaching seems to work great for 3 quarters, except against the Green Bay Packers. That's what happened there. So, I mean, if Tampa goes in on Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson, or maybe it's Jimmy Garoppolo, at that point they're going to have to move on from Brady if he wants to come back. Great power play by Brady, like Gronkowski a couple of years ago. It's like, okay, you're at the cap, you're over the cap, you've got to get rid of me, trade me. And at that point, Tampa will try to get what they can for Brady.
Look, and look, I'm fine with that. I'm sure it'll piss off some Buccaneers fans, but at the end of the day, it's if you're sitting there, say it is true. I mean, say it is true. Say maybe Bruce Arians did overstep maybe a little bit of what he should have. If you're a Tampa fan, I'm sure you probably end up ultimately siding with Brady because, like, at the end of the day, it's like, why? And like I said, the one thing that makes me feel like there may be some validity to this is, like, you can look at the numbers and say, like, how, and we talked about this a little bit. I didn't realize how how few play action plays that they ran, but you could sense it throughout the game. It just, if you watch Brady for 20 plus years, you know when there's something off, and not necessarily off, but like there's just something missing, and they just weren't utilizing it. And it's not that they didn't have a great running game. I mean, hell, we've seen them run play action with no running game. So, like, that's that's not an issue. It's how do you, and see, this is what got me like scratching my head over the weekend when I read this. It's like, how do you, with the one of the best, say, one of the three best quarterbacks this season, just this season, I'd say, of all time, I think obviously, his play action ability is up there with I mean, it may not be matched. I mean, it's hard to.
Boomer Esiason was my favorite play action quarterback. He literally constantly like faked out cameramen, directors, defenses, but he was lefty too, which they always look smoother, don't they?
Yeah,
like Steve Young and Boomer always look smooth.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. It's like when you have a quarterback that's so great, so consistently great at that play, and that's the thing too. We're not just talking about like, we're not talking about like just deep passes, low percentage plays. Like, yeah, you may be great at that, but there's still generally low percentage plays. If you're successful in play action, you're generally a dominant offense. Being a great play action team means you are a very, very good offense. And the fact that they used it at such a low rate, I'm sitting here thinking like, oh my God, like what? How? Why? It's like, oh, the injuries, this, the injuries. I get that, but at the same time, like, again, Brady's dealt with injuries. He's dealt with deficient offensive weapons before. He's dealt with all this, and I don't think it's ever been this low in terms of percentage of plays running the play action. So.
And I also think too that the Antonio Brown thing was a turnoff for Brady. I think Brady felt he had Antonio Brown under control, right? Like, let's just get through this season, try to win another Super Bowl. Which, by the way, they could have very easily won. I mean, if they pull off that comeback against the Rams, you can't tell me they wouldn't beat San Francisco and Cincinnati.
I said it before. Like, if they can beat the Rams, they're gonna end up going to the Super Bowl because there's no way that the 49ers are gonna beat them.
And I kind of felt that way about Green Bay. If they got through San Francisco, I think they beat the Rams at Lambeau because I don't think the Rams are equipped to play at Lambeau in the freezing cold, where San Francisco kind of is as a physical running team. And I think whoever was playing the Bengals in the Super Bowl would beat the Bengals. I mean, as nice a story as that was. But as far as that goes, I think also that he felt that he had Antonio Brown. Okay, I've got this guy under control. And then the game in the Meadowlands where Bruce Arians screwed it all up. I think at that point, Brady's like, well, what do you have me here for? One of my biggest assets is my leadership ability. I've got this guy under control. Let's just get through this. Let's, get to the next week, the next week. And I think he just felt like, okay, this guy is a boob. Like, I can't deal with this. It's almost like you're at a club outside and there's a little ruckus, but now finally the two guys got things settled. They're fine. And in comes the bouncer to make it worse, right? Like, he's just going to come in there and like start it up again. Like, that's what it felt like.
And Mike Evans had opened up a little bit over the weekend about the whole situation. He kind of said sort of the same thing you're saying. It's like, dude, like, if you don't want to be here next year, that's fine. But we're at the end of the season. Just get through this. Like, you know, and I so it's not, maybe at this point, maybe the personal relationship was no longer there. But I think to your point, the business relationship, let's just get through this. And then, maybe the moment Arians decided to tell him to get the F out, that blew everything out. And again, this isn't a defending Antonio Brown. I mean, the guy's a nutcase. But to your point, maybe from Brady's end, it was frustrating because it's just like you were so close to the finish. So close to the finish with a team that was just desperate. Like, we were talking about it before that game, like how important he was going to be because of Chris Godwin being out and all these other factors. So, again, maybe at the end of the day that was kind of the final straw. I don't think it was the catalyst, because I don't think that he would do this just because of Antonio Brown, but maybe it was the culmination of everything. Maybe, assuming, say there's truth in some of the reports, that there was just they just didn't see eye to eye. It might be the best way to put it. They just didn't agree on everything. And look, I can see that. That's why it's believable, because that's why you can latch onto this, is because it's believable. And could it turn out to be completely false? Absolutely. And we're not saying it's 100% valid, but this is what we do. We speculate, we give our opinion, and I look at it, I'm like, yeah, this story is the details are believable enough. And that's kind of, that can work in a lot of ways, like obviously for being able to decipher whether something's true or not. But look, if you're trying to convince people or something, sometimes just enough details are enough to push your point. So maybe this was just enough to make people say, you know what, this makes sense. Anything else, maybe not. But also, Bruce Arians' response. Now, it did you read it or listen to it or anything like that, or did you see it at all?
No, I didn't. But if you want to refresh me,
well,
or whatever,
this is Radio 101. I kind of tease this, and I don't even have it in front of me. So don't do this if you're listening. Prepare yourself to have this type of information in front of you. Hey, look, I was kind of, this is
it's
what
the
happened.
Off season,
this is what happened. I don't know days off, John. This is what I was. I was anticipating that you had seen it, so I kind of just bagged on you had already seen it, so I wouldn't have to
don't
explain
do that
it.
anymore, Ian. I've lost my fast. I spent the weekend listening to a 12-part podcast, "The Killing of Marilyn Monroe." So
okay.
If you want to ask me any questions on that, then I'm ready to go. But what Bruce Arians had to say, I apologize.
Well, I'm excuse me, I'm pulling it up right now. So because one of the things that like Orenberger suggested was that Bruce Arians was, kind of, he didn't have quite the workload that others did. So again, there was this resentment building and all that stuff. And his he claimed his sources were impregnable. So that's it is what it is. They're both saying they're, the guy, Rick Stroud from Tampa Bay Times are saying what he's saying, but excuse me, Arians basically, and I wish I thought I had this. I see this is again, I kind of screwed this one up, but it felt like he was over defensed. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yep. Like what he said, like it felt like it was just like, you're kind of defending yourself a little bit too much. He was like, oh, that's BS, and this, that, and the other. Well, I don't know. That felt just kind of more of a defensive, and of course it's going to be defensive, but you know what I mean. Like a negative defensive is what I'm trying to say. So, look,
and I wonder who Orenberger's source is. I know he played with the Patriots for a few years. Maybe he struck up a relationship with Brady, and that's his source, or someone close to Brady is his source.
Well, obviously he does know Tom Brady, but there's actually, and man, see now I'm trying to. Oh man, I wish I had. There's actually a coach currently on the Buccaneers, and I think Florio did this like sort of backwards investigation where he tried to connect the dots.
How the FBI tries to connect all the monsters.
Yeah, like okay, this is who he is. Well, as it turns out, the two were apparently roommates, really good friends. And now, hold on. No, I got it. See, now I got to actually figure this all out. So here we go. There we go.
You're like Costanza when he had the zipper. He couldn't let go of the zipper.
Yeah, exactly. See, but see, at least I have it this way. But Orenberger was played college football at Penn State with Buccaneers assistant A.Q. Shipley, and apparently they were very close friends. And Orenberger actually, and I feel like I kind of remember this, but he actually I didn't remember specifically the players, but I just remember he posed as Shipley for an interview for 15 minutes in front of reporters as like a joke. So like, there's obviously there's a it seems to be a fairly close relationship. So if you want to connect the dots, and if you want to sit there and say, well, if they're that close of friends, and as Florio suggests, you would think there would be some sort of communication, be like, hey, how legit is this? So maybe there's truth to it. Again, it's the off season, so anything spicy like this, we're just going to latch on to. And when it involves Tom Brady and potentially fueling the fire for his return, I am all for it. So I'm going to be all over this, John.
Me too. Me too. I want him back. I want him to come back. I think we were talking last year. I'm like, yeah, he's going to go to the Detroit Lions and win a Super Bowl. Like that would be the ultimate cherry on top, right? I mean,
that would be, but like you said earlier in the show, and again, I'll have to apologize to all my Patriots fans, friends out there that I just the thought of seeing him in that 49ers jersey, especially that the dark, the maroon with the gold. Oh man. I mean, like, look, I'm if the Patriots and 49ers ended up meeting in the Super Bowl, I'd still root for the Patriots. But good God, I mean, like I love having a second option if I get to have that second option again to root for.
Well,
Brady
the Rogers train has plenty of seats available if you want to jump on.
Oh God, no.
Okay.
No.
Well, I offered.
Nuts?
Yeah, what are you, nuts?
I offered. I mean, he's broken off with Shailene Woodley, so he's single once again, which is about as surprising as me going up a third time to a buffet. Yeah. I mean, like I did not. I was invited to the wedding, but I didn't even respond because I just knew it was never going to happen. So that's where we're at.
Yeah. Hey, look. I mean, maybe. I'll root for him. I'll root for him to keep doing what he has been doing because it keeps. Stop.
What he's been doing? What, losing in the playoffs? Yeah, I know.
No. I'll be a little bit. Look, if Brady's retired, I'm going to be a little bit softer on some of these other quarterbacks because there won't be opportunities for others to make outrageously dumb opinions. Not saying you, I'm saying just in general. People making outrageous claims about other quarterbacks.
Well, like I did for 2 weeks, saying Burrow's the next Brady.
Yeah.
And then when you kind of look back at the postseason, and I think it was a couple of guys, and I like Rich Ronberger, by the way. I hear him on Fox Sports Radio a lot. He's really good. But it was almost like, let's look back at Joe Brady. Let's look back at Joe Burrow's performance in the postseason. It was good. It wasn't great. It was more. Cincinnati got that far because their defense was shockingly good. Really, I mean, he had 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He got sacked 19 times. Some of those are on him. Yeah. He missed some open receivers. Look, I love the kid. I think he's going to be outstanding. But I've got to pump my own brakes. Like, this is baby Brady. Well, let's hold on that.
Well, and look, I mean, and that's how. I mean. Burrow made it to a Super Bowl in his second year, and you're already like, well, he's not Brady. And that kind of is crazy as it sounds. Then I know, knuckleheads out there will sit there and criticize that first Super Bowl run and say, oh, well, he didn't do it. He was great in both the divisional round and the Super Bowl. Now, does it mean that he had a bunch of stats? No, but we saw Joe Burrow struggle early on under pressure. We talked about that in our post Super Bowl discussion. It was very evident early on that he was uncomfortable. And go back to the start of Super Bowl 36. It looked like Brady had been there 10 times at that point. Second he snapped, that ball was snapped, he just felt comfortable. And it was the same thing going to that Raiders game. People, he didn't even throw a touchdown. Well, first of all, he had a rushing touchdown in a blizzard. But that season, that Raiders secondary, which we know who hit him. Exactly, Charles Woodson. They did not allow a single passer to throw more than 275 yards against them all season.
Wow, that's incredible.
Tom Brady threw 317 yards against them in a blizzard. Nuts. Yeah.
Also considering the pass was big, but not as big as it is now, obviously. Let's not forget the Raiders were really good that year, so they were ahead in games. So you would think somebody would throw for some garbage yards again. Well, you had Charles Woodson. They not have Eric Allen out there.
I think so too.
Good corner. Yeah, that was a loaded team. I mean, that's a team that I believe 3 straight years with the first time lost to Baltimore in the AFC Championship game, lost to the Patriots in overtime in the divisional round, then went to the Super Bowl and lost to Tampa. That was a good Raiders team.
Yeah.
3 straight years. I mean, Rich Gannon was a damn good quarterback.
He won an MVP in 2002.
He won an MVP, yeah. I mean, he was good. I mean, we forget. I mean, you and I don't forget, but the Raiders, had a 3rd and 1, and they came up a little short, and then they decided to punt, and that's when Brady led the Patriots down to that game-tying field goal by Vinatieri in the blizzard. No, I mean, look, if people that want to start criticizing him, it's almost stupid. It's just like, bring up another subject because I don't. Like, come on. I get that way with LeBron. It's like, LeBron missed a game-winning shot 7 years ago. Okay. So did Jordan, so did Kobe, so did everybody else.
Yeah, everyone. No one's 100% on those. So.
No.
But well, at least we did mention LeBron at least once, even though it wasn't in the context in which we were planning to, because we ran out of time. But hey, LeBron hit a game winner last night. The NBA All-Star game was meh. The slam dunk conversation was, and that's it. It's so bad. It's been bad for a while. Let's be honest. This is the last. I don't want to get into. Yeah, it's been bad. I mean. But look, I say it went. The slam dunk competition went downhill the moment people accepted Dwight Howard's Superman dunk as a quote unquote dunk, because that wasn't a dunk. And I'm sitting here scratching. I'm like, how are people going nuts giving this a 10 when it wasn't a dunk? And at that point, it just
he threw it in.
Yeah, he threw it in.
Well, I mean, prior to the loss of the allure. That's a word they use, of the dunk contest, is my guy. He's never participated in it. Like, what made the dunk contest great in the 80s, because you had Jordan, Dominique, you had Spud Webb came out of nowhere to win at 5'6", and Nate Robinson was winning at 5'9", but LeBron's never participated. I think part of it, I mean, Skip Bayless thinks he doesn't want to fail, which I think is ridiculous, but I think he just doesn't look at himself as just a dunker, because his best asset is passing, so maybe he should be in the skills competition. But I thought the highlight of the weekend was halftime when, they brought out the players that were on the NBA's 75th anniversary team, the 76 greatest players in league history. I thought that was pretty cool.
I need to know what really happened between Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen, because there has to be something more than just him going to Miami. Like, Ray Allen must have, for the purpose of keeping this PG, he must have done something to warrant.
From what I understand, is he never really fit in with the other two. Like, how many times have I said this? 3 is never a good group, because there's always one on the outs, right?
I don't even think it's. I don't even think it's that. There had to be, and I have no inkling of what it is, but there had to be something more to hold this type of grudge.
Well, Garnett more than anyone. Pierce and Allen have kind of thought, so that's good. But Garnett, Garnett has a problem.
Yeah, maybe
Garnett carries himself like I'm not a huge Garnett fan, believe it or not, because that 08 Celtics team gets treated like the 80s Lakers. Like, they won one title and they lost in another final.
To be fair, I mean, they were a great team in 08, and had it not been for a Garnett knee injury, I mean, they probably win more than one title in that run. I mean,
he got to Game 7 in 2010, and he had 3 rebounds.
But again, I mean, this is what we're talking about, though. Knee injuries and just at that point, they had look, that team had a very small window together because of how late they came together in their career, but it worked so well right off the bat. The problem was, it's just you had that knee injury, and then you lose Kendrick Perkins for a time being. And I know people will chuckle because it's like they think of Perk now as kind of just the commentator on TV. But I mean, he was, as important as you could possibly be in that run. So yeah, I mean, it's disappointing that they ultimately didn't win more than one, but that was a really great team. So I don't know if I sit there and say they were overrated. Maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say that they're some people probably overrate them, but I think overall, I think they're very appropriately rated in terms of how great they were in Celtics lore, even though if it was just a one-off.
3 of those guys that were there last night, you can debate whether Ray Allen is one of the 76 greatest players in league history.
I think he is.
Yeah,
I mean, one of the most prolific three-point shooters of all time. I mean, let's. Yeah, it is what it is.
I think Alex English had a better career and he wasn't on the list, but he's obviously deserving. I'm not going to go there, but 3 of them were there last night, and they had Garnett standing next to LeBron, and Garnett hates LeBron. Yeah. LeBron, I thought the highlight of the night was Jordan showing up, because they weren't sure if he was going to show up it kind of felt like Ted Williams at the '99 Major League Baseball All-Star Game at Fenway, where it was, wow, Ted Williams is here. Same thing with
someone said on Twitter that the reason he was so happy and lovable is he must have hit a bunch of parlays that night. So he was having himself a good night. He had the over in the first half.
Yeah, whatever. But I thought it was awesome that he and LeBron embraced and looked like, LeBron was like a little kid around him because that's his idol, and we know LeBron loved Jordan. And I don't think Jordan loves LeBron, but I think them embracing and actually looking like it was real, I thought that was pretty cool. And then the two players I'm completely upset with, Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis, made the team. Westbrook deservedly so. Again, Anthony Davis to me is on the cusp. You can't show up to that. They were the only two modern players who didn't make it there. Like, obviously, Bill Russell's not going to make it. He's 87. There's COVID. God love him. But Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook, like, they probably planned on being at the game anyway as All-Stars. They didn't make it. You can't show up to that.
Yeah,
that's a bad look.
Yeah, especially for something like that. I agree with that. So, and we know obviously Durant wasn't there because of his, the death in his
grandmother passed away.
Exactly,
and absolutely, because he would have been right there. But not to see Westbrook and the way they did it, my God, with the recorded like waving.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord, it looked like the dumbest thing I've ever seen. With like Larry Bird in front of this white screen, waving his two hands like he was in a parade.
Yeah.
Oh, cringeworthy. But Steph Curry put on a show as usual, right?
No, that was fun. That was fun. I mean, look, I know I sound a little. It's just to me, it's like I don't.
It wasn't that great. No,
I mean, defensive basketball, it's hit or miss as it is. But all-star defensive basketball is just non-existent, and it's just not exciting to me. Like, it was cool and all, but I was just like, People are like, oh, Steph Curry he's great because of other reasons, not because of last night. I mean, hell, I could put up 50 points in an all-star game because my biggest weakness is when anyone guards me, and if no one guards me, I'm cool. I'm good.
That could be a problem. It's like the Pro Bowl if no one's tackling.
If no one's tackling, I'm fine. I can play. I'd be great. So
you're Cooper Kupp.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Actually, I used to flag football. I used to wear 87 because they used to call me Ed McCaffrey. So going back a little ways.
That's going way back. Wow.
Yeah. So early 2000s. So, all right. Well, we gotta say goodbye because we have gone over time, and I have obligations where I'm already behind. So, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. Like I said last week, during the next couple weeks, we're going to be doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday here live doing the show, and then once we get closer to free agency, we'll obviously keep working in there. So you'll have to wait till Wednesday to listen to us live again. So until then, have a great Monday, have a great Tuesday, and we will talk to you then. Take care.